over it and stuff, but it was in amazing shape, and it looked as though someone did it. It was like a professional, it was just so clean and nice.
It's some of them are absolutely beautifully done, and some of them are hack jobs.
Really?
And I'm not sure if it's because they had perhaps a mason do it for them, or whether it was they were more skilled with chisel and hammer, or perhaps they were more educated, and they could write more clearly. I just don't know what
like you're
the answer
saying
is to
there,
that.
maybe they were just higher up on the ladder and they had more downtime to take. And
I just don't know, because we've got a lot of different, men from different sort of socioeconomic stratus represented at Soup Cove. And that's the thing with the Hudson Bay Company. Everything was class-based. So the officers, the sloop captains, the senior clerks got the best food, best quantity of food, best quality of food, the best luxury items like, brandies and chocolate and spices and stuff like that. They also got the best accommodations. So their whole life was based around where they were on that socioeconomic ladder. The men at the bottom, they got lots of food, but not great cuts of meat, or not well prepared, not a lot of variety. And they had to sleep in 3 to a bunk kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So just the staples, like what gets you by.
Yeah, they were well fed. I mean, if you compare what they were eating at the Prince of Wales Fort to the sort of richest people in the world at that time, which were the English aristocracy, the Prince of Wales Fort men were doing very, very well as far as how many calories they were getting a day, but they may not have been getting the same sort of variety.
Yeah.
And that variety really is the spice of life. I mean,
well, just even something like brandy and chocolate, you hear a lot of people say doing backpacking trips, or if you're on a guided hunt or things like that, brandy and chocolate's quite the comfort combo,
for sure. Absolutely. Yeah, so if you were eating the same thing every day, like if you were getting Arctic char every day, you might eventually throw the Arctic char at the cook like the men did in 1757.
Yeah.
They'd had enough. So.
Oh, that's cool. But yeah, that is then, I mean, in terms of a healthy diet, Arctic char, that's up there. I mean, that's a good meal.
Well, that's a delicacy now. I guess apparently it was not as popular back in the 1700s. I guess it was just a matter of them getting it too much day after day after day. But they were eating other things as well. I mean, they were eating a lot of they were eating caribou. They were eating muskox.
Oh, really?
Historically, there were muskox just north of Churchill.
Oh, wow.
They were extirpated from overhunting. But the conservationists indicated that some of the muskox herds from Nunavut are now moving south.
Oh, really?
So in 2014, in September, we had a muskox about 150 kilometers west of us.
Really?
Yep.
Man,
Same latitude. Yeah.
I was about 170 kilometers west of here all winter.
Oh, is that right? Well,
Yeah.
you keep your eyes open, because apparently they're moving south, and perhaps one day we'll have them again established in Manitoba.
That's
I think
cool.
that's a little premature to say that now. And it was one lone bull, so.
That's cool to think, though. Wow.
But that's pretty cool.
You might know more about this than like I was told. So there was times when they were struggling, right? And obviously dying of malnutrition or scurvy, things like that.
Yeah.
I was told that if they had only known, they could have eaten the orange lichen off the stones. It's actually got a lot of vitamin C in it.
Well, there's a lot of foods here that would have sustained them. If they'd perhaps eaten a little bit more of a traditional diet, what the indigenous people were eating, they would have been fine. For instance, beluga whale skin, muktuk.
Yeah.
And the underlying fat and skin is called muktuk, is full of vitamin C as well.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of, boy, they're making a lot of noise,
oh,
eh?
yeah, they're going
That's
hard
awesome.
down there.
The cranberries too in the area are full of vitamins.
Yeah, I found some actually this spring as well when the snow started to melt.
That's right, and they come right out of the
They're
snow.
so good.
Just as good as when they went under.
It tastes just like those craisins.
Yeah, I think those cranberries saved a lot of men's lives.
Yeah.
In the past.
There's still a lot
so
of them
full
too.
of vitamin C, yeah. And they're just starting to get ripe now. And in
really?
fact, I saw crowberries, blueberries are ripe. Cloudberries, I haven't actually picked cloudberries this year, so I think they're probably come and gone. And the cranberries are working their way to being ripe.
Oh.
So, yay, finally.
Yeah, no kidding.
Holy, that's a big whale.
We got a big group in front of us here right now, just surfacing. We seen what I was shocked about. We were out the other day and we found some strawberries.
Yep.
Not many of them. Seems like you got to beat the birds or something to it.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, they're a favorite.
The strawberries are like the size, a mature, ripe, ready-to-eat strawberry is the size of a pea almost. It's so crazy.
And the raspberries are so small that when you pick them, you basically just have to lick your fingers. Because you squish them when you pick them, right? They're so tiny.
Yeah.
But they're so delicious.
Because like I was wondering too, with such a short growing season and just harsh conditions, I couldn't figure out how these berries are flowering and producing fruit, but it makes sense if it's like a 1/16 of the size of a regular strawberry.
Then that's right. Yeah. And they've got lots of adaptations to make things work for them as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Like they're all low growing, really low growing to the ground. So they hug the ground out of the wind, a little bit warmer, taking advantage of growing on the south side of of rocks and so on. Yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully you'll get some time to get out and do a bit of picking, I think.
Yeah, it's berry picking time. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, if the geese don't get them first.
Yeah. Oh, they probably,
Yeah, there's a little bit of competition there for sure.
Probably
I just saw a young one.
A little calf.
A little calf, yep.
It's nuts this year. I'm not sure in comparison to other years, but there's so many of them.
Oh, there's another one.
Yeah, BJ was commenting at the beginning of the year that it was the ones we were seeing were the smallest he's ever seen, and we've seen some really tiny little calves. You can notice on some of them, especially around their dorsal ridge. They call them the fetal folds. And that's a good indication that they're not exactly sure when they plump up and those go away, but it could be days or a few weeks that they're born.
Yeah, I think with Dwight Allen from Sea North was also indicating that he'd never seen as many calves in the river. So.
I'm just seeing a large adult pop up behind us, and he had some huge, I think they call them rails. You'll see on their belly. They got those. It's fat deposits, like the rails on their belly on either side that run parallel with their body. I think only belugas are the whales that store fat that way.
Yeah, I've seen that in some of the photographs.
I believe it's to help create heat for themselves, and then it's like an energy store as well. There's a surprising amount of things about beluga whales that are only like characteristics or traits that are only found with belugas out of all other whale species. That's
new information for me. I didn't know that about the fat stores. That's really cool.
They're hanging out with we're just not moving. If you look at the shore here, we've been hanging out by that shed for the last half hour, and the whales seem to be spending a lot of time with us right now. And making lots of noise. So that's probably, I was just thinking for berries and things like that, must be just, if you can get out early enough and find out where the geese are, that's probably one way to maybe find out where good berry patches or...
Well, every person in town has their own sort of secret berry patch, yeah.
It's nuts. You got to know what you're looking for though here, because you look at the ground and it's just intertwining plants, right? It's not like they're isolated and separate. They're all kind of
that's true. But
together.
After a while, you just really know your berries. It doesn't take long to figure out what's what.
Yeah.
But it does take a little bit of time. Most of the berries, to my knowledge, all the berries are edible in Churchill.
Yeah.
Some of them aren't very palatable, however.
Oh yeah.
But they're edible.
Are you able? So when you go berry picking, I'd imagine maybe cranberries. They seem to be somewhat plentiful, but if you're gonna go pick raspberries or strawberries or something, are you just doing it for fun, or can you actually get enough to?
Oh, look at that fluke display there. That's cool. No, I don't know anyone who's, other than maybe Diane Erickson, who picks enough dewberries to make the dewberry or raspberry jam.
Yeah.
So no, I wouldn't. It would be too time consuming.
It's more just a fun thing to go out and do. And
Yeah, but I would definitely pick for crowberries, blueberries, and cranberries.
Yeah.
Yeah. And cranberries are great. You throw them in the freezer, and then in January, February, when you are, the summer is just a memory, and you need a little reminder, you have a little bit of, cranberries in your food, or you're make it into a sauce.
Oh, like I said, it was awesome when we found them on that hill behind the cabin. We were just sitting there chowing down it. And they're so flavorful.
Sweet. And the blueberries are amazing.
Really?
Oh, the blueberries here are really small, but really flavorful.
I love blueberries. And
the cranberries aren't the same either. They're quite, they're tart, and they're like intense flavor.
It's a real powerful. Yeah. It's like, you eat something and your mouth just like cringes on the inside. That's what you get with those.
Yeah, they're really good. Oh, that's a little tiny baby there. Little tiny calf. Wow.
We got quite the group hanging out with us in front right now.
Yeah.
You mentioned today, August 8th.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot, right?
That's amazing. Look at that.
Another, I don't know if that was a seal. That's pretty dark, or if that was a calf.
I didn't see that.
They're fighting the current with us too.
Yeah. Wow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
I don't even know how many there is now.
Well, there's got to be at least 20. I wonder how many calories they expend in a day. Like, how many calories does it take to be a beluga whale?
I keep forgetting to, I wanted to say how much food they eat, and I thought, I'll have to check into it, but I thought it was, 50 pounds a day, which seems like an extreme amount. It can't be that much, but...
But if you're in cold water and you're a large animal, I don't know. But,
that's just, thinking, because we were talking about it yesterday, for an estimated 3,000 whales visiting the estuary here, like the Churchill estuary. That's a lot of capelin, that are...
Yeah. Well, we've seen the capelin running when we were at the beach for Canada Day. We were doing the bay dip, which is a Churchill tradition.
Yeah.
It's a relay race into the water,
oh.
And you get a wonderful award from Parks Canada if you win, or if you have the best costume. But more importantly, you get bragging rights that you win in the bay dip. And the capelin we couldn't figure out what it was that was dark right at the water line where the water meets the beach, and it was a capelin run.
Oh.
Of thousands and thousands of capelin.
That's cool, because I talked to a guy here in town who he first moved and worked in Churchill in the 70s. And I think he's just visiting now, so he moved out. But he said when the capelin were running, he said there's times where the beach was covered in them, and you just go with pails and fill pails.
You go with pails and fill them up and feed them to your dogs.
Yeah, or he said they'd even, if they're fresh, they'd eat them themselves, freeze them. And
yeah, that's right. You see some folks down occasionally when that happens with buckets scooping them up, and they're gorgeous. They're silver, and they're iridescent. They're just beautiful fish.
Supposedly pretty tasty too, I guess.
I haven't tried a capelin actually.
Yeah. Some people clean them, and then other people just eat them whole, just fry them up, and away you go.
Yep.
But yeah, like I was saying, for this many whales,
look at that little calf.
Yeah, a little one right in front. That's the main food source here is the capelin, so it's crazy to think there's that many of them here.
They eat a lot of other things as well, but that's one of the big attractants to the Churchill River, is the massive capelin runs. And it's interesting, we had a couple of years ago, we had the capelin runs were quite poor.
Oh, really?
And we really noticed, a visitor wouldn't notice, because when, the difference between 4,000 and 3,000 whales, but locals could tell there was fewer whales in the river, and that was the year that was fewer capelin.
Possibly gone to one of the Nelson or the Seal River or something.
That's what people were speculating. Yeah, for sure.
One thing too with the belugas, which I thought was cool, when you say they eat other things. So if they're scouring the bottom looking for food and they find something they want to chow down on, I didn't realize they'll shoot a jet of water out at the bottom and it blows all the sand off. And then they said they have extremely powerful suction, and they'll slurp it right up off the bottom.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
And Stefan, I need to talk to him again about it, but he had said so we get the belugas chewing on the cam from time to time, so you get awesome photos of their mouths and everything.
And teeth.
Yeah, he said he's noticing their tongues with the photos, so he started looking into it more, and they're actually learning things about the beluga whale and their tongues and how they create suction and things like that. I can't remember all the details he was talking about, but he said the Beluga Bits program is raising more questions than they're able to answer.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is good, though. I mean,
well, I think it'll get a lot of young people interested in beluga whales. I think it might perhaps inspire some young people to do some research on beluga whales, and I think that's a really good thing. So we've got lots of questions.
Well, and bring in even a little bit of like making people aware of Churchill, even it's
as a whale watching destination. I mean, you don't even have to go on a boat. You can watch from the shore. I mean, it's just there's that many whales.
I seen my first beluga whale within minutes of pulling into Churchill.
Well, I have an awesome vantage point from my office because I'm on the second story window, and I overlook the Churchill River. So I have a pair of binoculars on my desk, and if I need to take a break, I just whip out my binoculars. And some days you don't even need to do that when there's not a lot of whitecaps.
Yeah,
you can see the beluga whales with the naked eye from the office window. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, they stand out, that's for sure.
They really do.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's interesting watching people recognize they're looking at beluga whales, because at first people think they're looking at, I'll say, look at the whales, and they'll go, oh, and they think they're looking at whitecaps.
Yeah.
And then finally they'll figure it out, and they'll be like,
crap,
there's a lot of whales out there.
Yeah. I know, that's the biggest thing. Even when I first came, I thought, you read up on it, okay, there's this many whales generally that come, like, yeah, that's a lot, sure, but there's just no real way to prepare yourself for how many whales there are. You're like, you don't think that, like, getting out on the water, you're going to come across or be in this close a contact with them.
Well, I know that the Jessie, the artist you had on last night's boat, she said to me, do you think we'll see one whale? I said, oh yeah.
Yeah. I thought, when I was talking with her.
When she first came.
I thought when we were talking about polar bears when she said that, I thought she was saying, well, do you think we'll see a polar bear? And I was like, well, I don't know, maybe if we're lucky, but I think she's talking about the whales when she was asking me.
She might have done, yeah.
So I must have made her discouraged. I was like, well, if we're lucky, we might see one, I don't know. And we actually, driving down, not like as moments after she said that, I looked up towards the green building by the port there. I was like, there's a bear right there. She missed it, because as soon as I said it, it basically vanished. But
yeah.
I think it was the same one that
she'd seen one the night before.
I talked to Jack, and he figured it was the same one that was in the tank farm there.
Yeah.
So you might see the chopper out today.
Yeah, we saw that bear. We were actually storm chasing.
Oh, really?
We saw the bear, yeah. We've had some spectacular storms here last couple weeks.
Yeah, I posted a photo up of that cloud.
That was crazy cloud, the blob cloud. Yeah, that was
rolling over.
I'm sure that's not the scientific word for it, but it was incredible. And the wind.
And lightning shooting down underneath it.
And it was incredible.
That's the closest I think I've seen to, have you seen those like cylindrical clouds? And they look like they're just
rolling, yes. Yeah.
That kind of looked like it was trying to do that.
I saw an interesting cloud here many years ago, and it was a fog cloud coming over this area here, the Western Peninsula, and it looked like, have you ever seen Lord of the Rings, where that scene when they have the river turns into horses? That's what it looked like, but
really?
A huge fog cloud. It was surreal, and then within minutes it had swept across, and we were on our bikes heading towards Cape Mary, and recognized that we were no longer safe.
Yeah,
we couldn't see 2 feet in front of us, so and of course it went from being not quite 30 degrees, 26 degrees Celsius to being about 12.
Instantly.
Jeez.
Yeah, that big cloud rolling across too. It's funny you said that, because I noticed we went out on the highway towards the airport to watch and try to get photos, and you could see the moment that it hit the bay, it's whatever that changed in temperature, I don't know what it was, the cloud looked like it just took a nosedive straight down to the ground. It looked really cool. Yeah, it just dropped. I was saying to Parker, we were sitting in the truck, I was like, holy crap, look at that, and it looked like all of a sudden gravity took over and the cloud just dropped.
Yeah, that was quite the storm.
it's for how much, like we've had some pretty good ones and stuff, but I'm shocked that we've been able to get out on the water more or less every day.
Every day. I've been kind of shocked too, actually. Usually there's some reason why you can't go out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been unreal, the weather this year, and we had that first day of glassy water, and I was like, this is insane. It was the greatest thing ever, and then we've had it numerous times since then, so it's been very lucky this year. We're getting a bunch of photos showing up.
Excellent. People taking
yeah,
photos, that's great.
I haven't mentioned beluga bits yet today, but we were talking a little bit of it off mic there. It's the Citizen Science Project, co-founded by Dr. Stefan Peterson from the Assiniboine Conservancy. And for anybody that's not aware of it, we're looking for help from you guys at home. I have the underwater cam down now, as you'll see, and we're looking for snapshots of the whale. You'll find the icon in the upper right hand corner of the video feed there, and any photo you could take of the whale with different scars or marks on the dorsal ridge, or some of them just have kind of weird oddities that set them apart from the other whales, as well as belly shots to help determine sex is what we're looking for. Stefan's, I think, pretty happy with that. We've got a lot of photos so far this year.
Yeah, that's great.
It's been going really well. Do you find it, so Heather was telling me before that you've worked with the project and gone through the photos. Is it really tough to you? Are you always kind of like, I don't know, is this one?
Super easy. The way it's set up, it's user friendly. It's quite fast, actually. The first one or two times you do it, you might be a bit on the slower side, but after you've done two, you're like, oh yeah, this is super easy. And a lot of the questions are, is there a beluga whale in the photograph? Yes or no? And if it's yes, how many? And you put 3. And or you can they'll give an answer not sure. So if you're sexing them, it'll ask is it male or female? You can say female, male, or I'm not sure.
Yeah. So
it gives you I know, because you can't always see everything, and you're not always sure if you're looking at an adult or a juvenile, because sometimes if the water's not super clear, you can just put I'm not sure. I don't know. So very easy to do, and it's really fun to do with kids too. Mm-hmm. It's a great little thing to do with a little one, and it's a fun thing to do with pretty much anyone of any age. So I would encourage anyone to help do some citizen science, get involved, and help the Assiniboine Park Conservancy and Stefan Peterson analyze the over 7,000, I think, photographs they had from last summer that haven't yet been analyzed.
Oh,
so I'm sure that's down somewhat from when I was speaking with Stefan earlier in the season, but there's a lot to do, and with the photographs coming in now from 2017,
adding to the
there's going to be lots more cool photographs to look at. So yeah, super fun project for the whole family. I was telling Kyron that I did the beluga bits with my Wapask leadership camp. So as part of the leadership component, they had to get involved in the citizen science project and spend some time learning how to identify whales, adults, juveniles, calves, and how to tell the male from the female. So we spent some time online doing that with the group, and they really enjoyed it. So I got lots of really fun feedback from the teenagers. So
cool. That's good.
Yeah, it was a really great thing to do, and really easy to sign up and get involved in. It's just 5 minutes, really fast.
And if you're curious at all, just to see, we do have a gallery where you can go back and look at a lot of the snapshots. If you're wondering what it's all about, or if you wanted to learn more, we have a link up as the featured comment on the top of the message board. And so you can click on that, and then they have photos explaining kind of what they're looking for, the difference between the adult juvies and calves, and there's a little bit more information. And I don't know, for me, sometimes seeing things visually, I learn a little better that way.
Well, for teachers, if you're connected in the classroom, you've got Wi-Fi. That's something you can go through with the class. Go through the whole thing with the class and do it as a class. It's a great opportunity to introduce students to science and citizen science and beluga whales and Churchill, all kinds of connections there, for sure. So
even besides going through the photos only, we've had, so if the highlights are up, we got some whales right behind us showing up.
Oh, sweet.
If we just running highlights or something like that, you could still take snapshots. So even if we were in the off season and you're wanting to watch the video or
Oh,
you
is
know,
that
show the
right?
kids or things, you could still
that's
take
cool.
screenshots and stuff. So
I didn't know that.
practice or hone in your skills for the next season.
Oh, there's one with a chunk out of it.
Just in front there to the side.
That's another thing they're looking for is identifying marks on the beluga whales. They'll ask a question, something along the line, are there any markings or identifiers on that particular whale? And sometimes there are, sometimes there aren't. Sometimes you can't really tell what you're looking at, but yeah.
And like you said, some of them are just like flesh wounds where they'll heal up the next time they molt and then kind of disappear. But
and then some of them are chunks, like you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Like they're really obviously not going to heal completely.
It's good to see though for how much some of them that we've seen, they're all healed up. I haven't seen anything fresh.
Yeah, they're healed up, but they're not going to grow back is what I meant. Yeah.
I haven't seen anything fresh, but it's nice, like, I mean, for that much that they've, that big of an injury that they can rebound from it. You'd almost think that those chunks missing though would make a cold spot. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, because there's not as much underlying fat. Yeah.
A couple inches gone now. It's tough with this wind here where I can't really go faster than we are with the underwater camera down, and we're kind of, I mean, luckily there's whales in the area, but I bet you we'll have to look on the GPS. That'll confuse Stefan because I'm pretty sure it's just going to be one big blob for the last hour. We're not moving at all.
So you mentioned something earlier that was kind of interesting. You were talking about we talked earlier about the date.
Yeah.
It's a very auspicious date, August the 8th, because this is the date the fort fell in 1782. And just to give you a little bit of background of what I'm talking about, I'm talking about the Prince of Wales Fort, which is now the Prince of Wales Fort National Historic Site, and it's actually just off our starboard side. You can see it off in the distance. It's a stone fortress, and that was what brought the Europeans into this area initially, was looking for the Northwest Passage, but they recognized really quickly that this area was rich in luxurious furs, and it was the British or the Hudson Bay Company that was quick in this part of Canada to set up shop. So this fort was built, ringed with 40 cannons, meant to repel the French from both the bay and from the Churchill River, which was the highway system, the conduit for the furs from the interior. And the Hudson Bay Company perhaps got a little complacent because they were completely unprepared for when the French arrived in 1782, and the French took the fort that day. They sacked the fort. So that was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's this afternoon. Yeah. At about 3 o'clock in the afternoon is when the French forces arrived. Interestingly, they were flying a false flag. They were flying the British flag when they arrived, but Samuel Hearne, who was the last governor of the fort, was a former Royal Navy officer, and he quickly recognized this was a French battleship flying a false flag. So he knew they were in trouble.
And there wasn't enough people to man the cannons, and there wasn't even anybody qualified to do so.
That's right. And it takes 6 to 10 trained men to shoot one cannon every 60 to 90 seconds, and they had only 39 men, and none of them had a clue how to fire a cannon. So had they even managed to fire one shot, the French would have had no problem putting the entire fort under fire, and most of the men would have probably perished. So the decision to surrender the fort was a wise one.
Good one, yeah. That's nuts, 6 to 9 men. Those cannons are massive, though.
They're massive, absolutely massive. And, very difficult to manipulate and very, very slow to fire. So,
when you were mentioning, the fur trade and stuff like that, what I thought was interesting, people were coming here for the furs, like you said, and it got to the point where the currency was in made beaver.
That's right.
That's right. Pretty wild to think.
Yep, it was a made beaver. It was adult beaver pelt in its prime, and everything else was sort of measured against that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was the original currency of this neck of the woods.
I can't remember the other terms because there's made beaver, and like you said, that was a finished, mature adult beaver, and then they had some that weren't maybe fleshed yet. Or dried, or stretched, I think, and they also had that as a
lesser currency.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just crazy. That's how much fur there was. That's how much they're harvesting. That's that they...
And it wasn't the Hudson Bay Company men that were doing the harvesting. They were doing the trading. So the idea was that the Aboriginal people from in the interior would be trading with the men of the Hudson Bay Company. They would come here in the spring and summer with canoes laden with furs, and would trade for a variety of goods they couldn't produce here in the New World. And number one trade item was muskets, guns.
Yeah, that's like the Cree and the Dene and the Inuits and stuff. They were coming a lot to...
That's right. And hatchets and axes and that kind of thing were popular. Tin pots, Hudson Bay Company blankets, and other food items like tea, tobacco, that kind of thing was important as well.
Yeah, all the things that they kind of never had before or were just being introduced to, I guess, and made life so much easier.
Yeah, it really did. I mean, having muskets made everything so much easier. Hunting was easier, but also it was from a defensive, position. The people who had the most guns would have a lot of power, and once everyone had guns, it kind of evened things out a little bit. So,
actually, I was thinking, for making hunting easier for sure with, say, things like ptarmigan or even ptarmigan you get close to, but I was thinking the caribou. One thing I was shocked about this year was I'm pretty sure you can get lucky and almost walk up to one and bonk it on the head if they're not as like a white-tailed deer at home. They're on high alert 99% of their lives. Here, when you're out on the skidoo or when you're out in the tundra, they're kind of running at you sometimes. Even they get right up in front of you, or they're just not as skittish, like you said.
Well, we've had staff in the park who've actually just sat down, and a herd will come right up to them. As long as they're not moving and not making noise, they can get quite close.
A buddy was saying they were out one year, and it was a terrible storm coming through, so they went down. They're in the trees, and they went down into a pond, like kind of. There's big banks and stuff around a lot of the water out there, and so you can get a little bit of protection. And they're hanging out, and they looked over. The wind was howling, the snow was blowing, so they could barely see. But there's a big herd of caribou laying on the ice, like I can't remember what he said, 50 yards or something away from them. And it was just both kind of a mutual. Like, we'll sit here, wait out the storm, and
go our separate ways. That's interesting. I think too they don't see that many people, so they're they're not like the deer, which are I've had lots of experience, probably a lot of negative experiences with people.
Yeah, even the wolves, sometimes they'll come right up to you too, because I think it's like they haven't seen a person or a skidoo or nothing before, so they're not sure curious. what to think of it. Yeah, the mast on here, it's nuts. The wind picks up, you can feel it pulling. I have the motor turned all the way. The wind just grabs a hold of that little thing. Like, you never guessed that it'd be such a sail. I'm wondering, maybe I'm trying to look around, but now we're getting major white caps. It's tough to see where the whales are at, but maybe relocating a little bit. And going downstream a little bit, maybe. It's always a good sign if we got a couple sea north boats ahead of us. We talked a little bit when Karen was on the boat too about York Factory.
Oh yeah, and that's a great site. That's another National Historic Site that Parks Canada administers out of the Churchill office.
And just so weird that it was like a main hub or like the main highway.
It was a powerhouse for the Hudson Bay Company. That was the most important trading post in Canada, in North America, for the Hudson Bay Company.
And now one of the most isolated.
Oh yeah, and it's so steeped in history. A lot of people who go there, staff members, are really moved by being there. And I can only describe my own experience there, but it was I felt like I had moved back in time.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm not being melodramatic. It really felt that way, and there's a lot of connections that Churchill people have, family connections to York Factory. I'm not one of them, but a lot of the names, you find in the Churchill phone book, you find in the cemetery in York Factory. And that just closed its doors in 1957. So there are people in Churchill that can remember or were born at York Factory that can remember the last sort of vestiges of the formal fur trade in the north on Hudson Bay.
That's pretty crazy to think too.
Yeah.
Such a short amount of time ago.
That's right. Yeah. And I mean, the fur trade really hasn't died here. We still are a community of trappers.
Yeah.
But there's, not to my knowledge, there's no trappers that are able to actually make a living.
I think you'd have to have a real large area,
Yeah.
and you'd have to be like just fully enthralled and
Yeah.
dedicated. Like, I think it'd be tough, and most of it. I mean, it's not because we're lacking in animals or anything like that. It's a lot of it has to do with the fur prices as well.
That's right.
They've
Fur prices
diminished.
and fuel prices.
Yeah.
With the fuel being expensive here, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But for a lot of people, it's about being connected to the land, getting out on the land to your hunting cabin or your trapping cabin in the woods. And I know that in the month of November, a lot of people are on countdown to when they can leave for the trap lines in December.
Oh yeah.
So, and it was interesting last year. We had such a late freeze up of the river, a really late freeze up of the river, that people couldn't get to their trapping sites at their normal times.
Yeah, they say the season opens well before people could actually get out.
That's right.
Because, like we said, there's so much water out there, and when you're riding through the barrens, or you're just crossing sloughs and ponds and rivers and creeks, and it's just endless. So.
And really, when the ponds and rivers freeze, the whole landscape opens up. It becomes so easy to travel on the land, because in the summertime it's just pond after pond after pond.
Yeah, you couldn't get out. Like, say you wanted to go out there, and even if you had an Argo, it'd be a crazy struggle still, just because an Argo is like a amphibious vehicle. It's water or land, and I'm told they're pretty finicky. Like they can break down quite a bit, but you'd have to have so much fuel, much.
And the other thing is, I don't know how well Argos deal with mud. Lots of mud and so once the freeze up has happened, I think people love the summer, but there's also a love for that time of year we can get out on the land by snow machine. So. And
being out like on the trap line, so the one that I was living on last winter, it's been actively trapped for over 100 years.
Yeah.
And it's just, people respect it. They do it properly, and it continues to produce. Like, they're not, they're not just wiping out areas. There's still lots of animals. Like, they're still thriving and doing really well. But back in the day, the trappers were like the richest people in town. They're the ones that did the best. They had all the nicest equipment and gear and things like that. And it's just because it was a big boom, and fur prices were through the roof.
Now it's the marten seems to be the most profitable.
And that's mainly because sable, like also known as marten, that's when they're getting it in from Russia and stuff too, is the only animal that they're unable to domesticate. So mink and things like that, they have mink farms now, right? Which drive prices down, but the sable or the marten, they're not able to farm them, so they kind of are able to maintain prices.
What were they going for last year, do you know?
The fall sale was around maybe 115 or 120 American dollars per pelt, and then it went down. It's still above 100, but it was less than the fall sale this spring.
It's amazing how it fluctuates.
Yeah,
and it's like currency.
And you hear like even Trump becoming president, people were worried that was going to influence the fur prices, because then if he starts to they sell a lot of furs to Korea, like it's a world sale. People come from all over, so it does depend on our country's relationships with other countries and their economy and all that kind of stuff too. So, man, this is pretty breezy out here right now. But I think everyone was pleased with the sale. I think that was a good price. So the marten are so cool. You don't realize. I always think everywhere I travel, like I'm always surprised at the wildlife, and coming up to northern Canada, you're not expecting things like marten or we don't even have fisher, and that I know. Well, I'm sure maybe further north from where I am in Alberta, but I barely knew what a fisher was, or like the mink. There's piles of the mink up here. We have those at home too, but you just don't see them too often. obviously caribou and polar bears, and it seems like it totally doesn't feel like you're in Canada. It feels like you got to be somewhere else.
Yeah, there's a lot of different fur-bearing mammals here. We've got the foxes, the Arctic fox, and we've got the red fox. And what's really cool about the red fox, it comes in a lot of different color phases.
Yeah.
So you've got the typical red fox that you think of for an English, English fox hunt.
Yeah.
Which we have all across North America, and they come in silver, which is sort of black fur with a silver tip, and then you've got the cross fox, which some people think is a cross between a red fox and a silver fox, but actually describes the cross of dark fur across the shoulder and down its back.
It's right in between the shoulder blades, the scapula, and then across. Actually creates a cross.
And a big surprise for me was seeing my very first black fox. And I was told when I first arrived here 15 years ago, there were no black foxes in the area. There were silver foxes, but indeed they have black foxes. I've seen 4 or 5 of them last fall for the first time.
Really?
And they were jet black, absolutely gorgeous with a white tip of the tail.
Yeah.
Just a beautiful, beautiful fox.
I lucked out. I seen a couple last year, and I got a real, like all the fox up here, the Arctic, I think all of them are gorgeous looking. Like I got some good shots of red fox eating caribou, and it just has like its face, when you zoom in on its face, like real smoky, like dark red rings around its eyes, and they're also awesome looking.
Yeah, the Arctic fox are gorgeous.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. Except for around the first few weeks of July, when they are molting sort of from their winter coat to their summer coat, because they're the only canine that changes color.
Oh.
So in the summertime, the pelage is sort of they've got a creamy coat under their tummies and sort of a browny coat on their back, and they're not as deeply furred either. Their fur is just so incredibly warm.
Yeah.
They would be uncomfortable in the summer. So for about a couple weeks there, they look like they're having a bad hair day.
Oh, really?
They look quite ratty.
Getting rid of all that.
As they're in transitioning between one coat and the other.
I seen a red fox the other day, and there's just not much to them when they don't have their winter coats.
Yeah,
like spindly little things.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Maybe we'll get the radio on here and see if we hear any news, but I don't see a pile up there, and I don't see much. I think everyone's kind of on the lookout right now for the whales. We're not hearing anything on the cam.
Yeah, it's actually quiet.
Getting really...
That's unusual for Churchill River.
Yeah. There's one over there.
Have you seen many bears at the point?
We can't get out to Eskimo Point.
It's too choppy.
The signal, we don't have a strong enough signal to make it out there.
Oh, is that right?
But there has been a few. Sea North, I've talked to Remy, and they go, and there's been a few bears out at the point. So
yeah, apparently there's one on a beluga whale carcass.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this Parks Canada staff say they've seen a few as well.
That was a couple days ago that they were chowing down.
That's a pretty happy bear that finds a beluga carcass.
Right now, like, they're back in land, they're planning on not eating for a few months, and if they come across something like that, that's like striking gold.
Like bonanza, yeah. Absolutely.
Especially the mums and calves. Considering like they're still feeding, right? They're still nursing from their mother, so she's using up all her resources to...
Yeah, mums with cubs are the ones that have the most, they're most calorically challenged of all the bears. Yeah, they've got an amazing physiology, the females. I mean, they're breeding out in the ice in April. They're coming in off the ice in July. If they're fat enough, if they've gained about 400 pounds, if you can imagine that, their body will recognize they're fat enough to have cubs, and they'll become pregnant. They have something called delayed implantation, which is something very typical of all bears, and that is that fertilized zygote will float around in her uterus until around August, September. And then if her body determines she's fat enough, that will implant, and she'll at that point become pregnant.
Wow.
And she'll get the hormonal urges to go into the area around Wapas National Park to dig a den or to find a den. She'll give birth sometime around the end of November, beginning of December, and then she'll stay in the den feeding the little ones, nursing the little ones until sometime in February or March. So she'll break out of the den, stick around it for a couple weeks to get the little ones used to the cold temperatures, and then beeline it for Hudson Bay, where the seal pups have arrived.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's 8 months without eating, and she's pregnant and
yeah.
lactating. I mean, it's just unthinkable.
And it's shocking when you see that duration from when they give birth to when the cubs are out and they're heading to the bay. It's because I was told when they give birth, they're tiny, right? There's not much to them.
Yeah.
And then they're able to make that journey. We were out around, I'd say between 100 and 120 kilometers this year. And it just so happened the night before, Parker and I were talking about bears and grizzlies and things like that, and we went out the next day to cut trail, and we had a fresh skiff of snow from the night before, and I was walking through the trees with my chainsaw, and I looked down and I see a big pie plate in the fresh snow, and I was like, holy man, there had been a bear moving through here within the last few hours.
Was it mom and cub?
No, it was just a mom. That was in November.
Oh, it was November.
Yeah, so she would have been
heading into the dens.
Yeah, but I was like, God, I didn't think I had to worry about polar bears all the way out here.
Oh yeah.
It's quite the journey.
For sure.
But then for them to give birth at that, and they're so small, and then, I mean, when they're making the journey back and the cubs are as big as they are, that had to come from somewhere, right? That's all from the mother. Like, she's, it's crazy that they're able to go that long without feeding, and they're just that efficient with their energy stores.
I was flying back from the park in early July and saw my first grizzly bear in the park.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Grizzly or the Barrens ground?
It was Barren ground grizzly.
Really?
Yeah. And very excited because we've been hearing more and more reports of grizzly bears. We're estimating there's around just under 10 that we know of in the park. Because we can tell a few of them apart. We're trying to get lots of photographs to get some sort of baseline information about the population size. So more questions there, right?
Yeah.
Where are they denning in the park?
Yeah.
Are they breeding in the park? We just don't know the answer to those questions. We've never seen a mum with a cub.
Really?
A grizzly bear with a cub. So yeah. Lots of really good questions there as well.
Just in the beginning of learning about those things.
Yeah, I'm super stoked. It was a really exciting moment for me personally. I've waited a long time to see one of those, so that was really, really nice.
Because I was trying to read up on it, and it's very difficult to find stuff online for even barren grounds grizzlies, but grizzlies in general, and they said there's only been, I think the article was written in, when was it? It was a few years ago, maybe 2013 or something, and there's only 9 confirmed sightings since 97. And I think, like, people have been seeing the bears, but in order for it to be a confirmed sighting, there's somebody has to be qualified that's there viewing the bear, or they have to have a easily identifiable photo of it where someone qualified can say for sure that it's a grizzly.
That's right, Well, we're seeing sometimes 9 a season now.
Really?
Yeah, so big difference. And again, more questions that we have answers for. So,
because one thing too, if people don't know, that could make it why it might be so confusing is there's black bears in the area as well, and sometimes you get color phase bears.
Well, yes, that's true, but a lot of the people that are seeing them are researchers and staff.
Yeah.
So because we don't have a lot of visitors in the park, the people that are frequenting the park are Parks Canada staff, researchers. And trappers.
Oh, I just mean then why they'd want to make sure it was a confirmed sighting.
Oh yeah, you have to. That's why having that photo is so key.
Yeah. Because you never know. Like maybe it was just a brown, like a color-phased black bear.
Right.
You get a cinnamon bear or something like that. But
we had we've put some trail cameras out in the park, and that's been really instrumental in us, getting good photos of bears. And one of them it was almost like he knew that he had to be identified as a grizzly bear, so he had a beautiful profile shot with him holding up his paw so you could see his nails.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was incredible. And that was what was really opened our eyes to how many bears are in the park, because we were getting a lot of shots of bears, and early, we were getting them in April, and that was earlier than we were expecting. So we suspect they're denning in the park, but
we seen a black bear this year in April, I think it was, and I was surprised that just like the geese coming in, I was surprised, man, like,
what's he gonna eat?
It's a block of ice out there still. What's the black bear doing?
Exactly. And the other thing that surprised us was they all look like they're in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
The grizzly bears. So in the springtime, or early summer, when there's not a lot of food around.
No, it's good news, but I guess also they're not sure how they're going to interact with the polar bears, and what's going to happen there, because there's been crossbreeding with them already.
Yeah, that's not happening to our knowledge in this area. I know that it has happened in the high Arctic. I heard reports of it happening in Arvik, which is 400 kilometers north of us. But yeah, it's been happening in zoos for quite a while. But the hybrid bears are really kind of cool because they're all a little bit different.
Yeah.
Some of them are more grizzly bear-esque, and some of them are more like polar bears. So yeah, it's quite the genetic mishmash.
And then they're like instinctually, they're maybe, like we were talking about before, they'll have a craving for some seal possibly, but they're unable to swim. Like they haven't got that.
I don't know. I think probably a lot depends on what the mother is.
Yeah.
And the mother would probably determine what that bear was going to be raised as.
Yeah.
I would imagine. So if if it was a grizzly bear mother, it would be grizzly bear.
Yeah.
Or act like a grizzly bear.
Yeah.
That's my guess. But again, more questions than answers. Yeah, lots of opportunity to come up to Churchill and do research.
Yeah, no kidding. On all kinds of stuff. There's a lot of the animals that
there's
are just not.
so much to learn about this
They're doing research on the fox. They're doing.
That's right. Yeah.
They had some live capture stuff going on, as well as the trappers will bring in the fox that they are catching so that they could study them. And
yeah.
Martin is something too that they don't really know a lot about.
Yeah. And we've got the Churchill Northern Study Center in Churchill. It's located about 23 kilometers outside of Churchill. Have you been out?
Yeah.
To see it? Yeah. Beautiful new building.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to work there for many years, and lived in the old building.
Oh.
But I was pretty excited to see the new building being constructed and opening, and they've got some awesome labs, great food.
Yeah, I know that.
Really good food.
I went out there for the interview for this job, and their kitchen, cafeteria setup.
Yeah, setup is really sweet. Lots of classrooms. They're hooked up to the internet, and yeah, really great place to do research. So
yeah, it's a neat place. I've been out there a couple times. I've seen they got the one of the murals for the Sea North walls out at the rocket range there.
Oh yeah,
pretty cool.
Have you seen? There's one on the other side as well.
Oh really?
Yeah, if you go around the other side of the building, same building, but the far side.
Oh, I seen it. We were up the tower out there, and I was like, man, because I thought I'd seen all the murals, and apparently I still haven't.
They keep popping up. I keep finding them in new places. It's actually kind of exciting.
Yeah.
Have you been out to the dump, to the L5?
Yeah, that one's got.
And there's a beautiful one, but there's one. There's three of them.
Yeah.
There's one on the side when you're going in. There's one on the side, sort of towards the Miss Piggy.
Yeah.
And then there's one on the side where you actually drive into.
Yeah, I like the beluga one on the back, like towards Miss Piggy. It's really cool. And then the other one, it was I'm told painted of Brett, one of the resources guys here in town.
That's the one. It's awesome.
It's so
That's
cool.
so awesome.
As soon as somebody said it, I'm surprised I didn't, because it's like, holy crap, it looks just like him.
I was like, I looked up and I'm like, that's Brett Wolf.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really well done.
Yeah, it was really well done.
We got a picture of.
I think we've got some whales up ahead. We've got some juveniles.
Yeah, I flipped around here. We're going with the wind now.
Oh yeah, here we go. We got whales.
We got a photo Jurgen posted here of one of the grizzlies that was on the Cape North Cam in May.
Oh, sweet.
Oh, it's a video. I'll have to check that out later.
Yeah, there was one in, I think it was May, and it was really adorable. He approached the camera, and the cameraman was on the ball, man. He was right on it, and yeah, the Explorer.org guys were right on it, and came along and kind of sniffed around, and then he sat down, just like
really?
somebody sitting on their having a bit of a rest, and then he wandered away again.
Really?
Yeah, it was amazing.
They're funny. I got to watch a lot of them on trail cams this year, black bears, and that's they do. I like they just flop down. Oh, look at the little calf with spy hopping kind of there.
Oh yeah.
Looking around.
Oh, we're in the whales now.
Yeah, they all of a sudden decided to reappear. That's crazy how they just pop up out of nowhere
it's
like
funny,
that.
hey?
Well, it's getting pretty windy out here, though. I was looking at the forecast, and it's supposed to be picking up gradually as the hours go on here. We're kind of, we found ourselves over at Cockles Point, which is a little bit of a jaunt back to launch. We'll be probably getting a little bit wet on the way home.
That's okay.
And being, it seems more like a north wind now.
Yeah, it's cooled down a bit.
Yeah.
I'm glad I've got these gloves on. You must be cold.
Not too bad.
Not too bad.
I've had a number of, we've had it pretty cold out here.
Yeah, that's true. You're probably acclimatized now.
Yeah, it's getting a lot better. That's one thing I'm surprised. The way I was dressing in the fall when I arrived last year in November compared to how I was dressing on the Skidoo in the spring is night and day. I was putting on everything I owned in the fall.
Yeah, you get used to it. But you also you'll have a difficult time acclimatizing to the warmer temperatures.
Yeah.
Which is what I'm going to face when I head to Ontario on vacation.
Yeah.
It'll be.
Yeah, it's going to be still nice and toasty there.
Yeah,
like hot.
yeah.
And everywhere this year, I was talking to friends in BC and in Whistler, Squamish area, they're getting like 35 degrees Celsius.
What? Really? That's crazy warm there.
Sickening, yeah.
That's not fun. That's people getting ill hot.
Well, we had the smoke. So when I think we commented on the cam here, we were out on the water and we were getting we had that really nice red sunset the other day when Teresa Cran was on.
Yeah.
And